I mean, it's
Hello and welcome to the review. And today I brought you to one of my favourite venues, the lovely Drennan Lindholme Lakes near Doncaster. A bit far away from home really, Dave.
yeah, I mean, it's one of my favourite venues as well, but not in winter. I don't come here in winter. I don't think I've ever been here in winter. I suppose you know, I spend my winters generally on the rivers of the Midlands, and yeah, I'm sort of, I was a little bit sceptical when you said you were coming here, but I do know Lindholme is a fantastic place. Setup's brilliant, and so if I've got to go to a commercial in winter, I think this would be a good choice.
Absolutely, there's everything on hand here. Lovely tackle shop, great cafe. The facilities are set to get even better for next year, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. And we've even secured one of the luxury lodges with a hot tub for a little bit later. So I hope you're looking forward to that, Dave.
Hot tub action always. Obviously there'll be plenty of people there, plenty of bikini-clad ladies there and that sort of thing, I'm assuming?
Just myself.
Okay. We'll talk about this later.
Let's move on to what we're going to be covering today, shall we?
Yes, well, we've got two very nice boxes here. We haven't opened them, have we?
No, I've got a large package, you slightly smaller.
Yeah. What's in yours?
I've got the Daiwa Connoisseur G90. Relatively new pole. One of the first in the UK made specification from Daiwa, which obviously goes right up to their flagship AirZ, which I fish with anyway. But this to me is a real key price point for poles, so it'd be really interesting to have a look at this because we all know how good flagship poles are. You know, they're made to be the best and you pay for that quality. But this, I wouldn't say it's a budget pole by any means, but you can pick one up for under 1,400 quid in the shops. 16 metre pole. I'm really going to be interested to see how it performs at those longer lengths today.
And I've got with me the Cadence CR10 11-foot Waggler rod. Now this is a slightly different than a sort of normal pellet Waggler rod. It's a soft action rod. I've not seen it, but I've heard great things about it, so I'm looking forward. We're going to have a bit of Waggler action, which you know is something that I enjoy. So we're looking forward to giving that a test out.
Absolutely. I'm really keen with that to see how it performs because it's quite a soft rod, I'm told. And one criticism I've had on Waggler rods for quite some time is they can be a little bit too pokey for this time of year. So that's going to be really interesting. Yeah. And what's the third thing we've got?
The third thing we've got is a rather fabulous new seat box from Matrix, which is behind us.
Look at that. And Craig Butterfield drove a very long way to bring us that to use today. So thank you, Craig.
Yeah, the Matrix XR36 Pro it's called, and it looks a nice bit of kit, doesn't it?
Should we get set up and see what we can do?
I think we should.
Let's do it.
So then, Tom, we've set up to fish. This is one of your winter approaches for Lindholme in the winter. Well, you're getting bites regularly. I was quite surprised. I thought we'd be perhaps tapping in a few pellets or something like that, but you've just decided to fish a nice strung out rig with maggots, fish through the water and catch everything.
Well, I'll be honest, it's an approach I'm sort of a bit famous for in my area, Dave. Not always successfully, but I'm an angler who loves getting bites in winter.
Just to confirm, your area, that's Yorkshire, yeah?
Yeah, that's Yorkshire. Right.
Not further afield.
I've got to say, we're borderline Lincolnshire, you know, the Isle of Axholme, where we are now. A bit of local history for it. It used to be underwater, this did.
Really?
Yep, drained by a Dutch engineer Cornelius Vermeulen or something like that. He drained all this and yeah, we used to be under the sea where we're sat right now.
You blow me away sometimes with your knowledge.
Well, mate, you know, being as I had half an hour about Hereford Cathedral last time I was with you, I thought I'd get my own back. So today we're testing the Daiwa Connoisseur G90. Now, Connoisseur, obviously, as arranged by Daiwa, iconic, really.
Yes, it's been around a lot of years, isn't it? The name is just synonymous with Daiwa. So now I'm interested in this because I've given you first go on this, but I mean, I don't think you can call yourself probably a match angler in the UK until you've actually fished with a Daiwa pole. I think we've all have at some stage. We've all owned a Daiwa pole. I know not everyone, but it's, you know, it is something. They've always been at the top, and nothing changes. They keep producing quality poles. But this is interesting, the fact that you are. I know you use their top of the range, their Air Z. So now you're supposedly taking a step down with this. But we're talking about a pole in the price bracket. What does this retail at?
You can pick these up in the shops for under 1,400 quid. The RRP on them's about 2,400.
And there's always been, there's almost like a little bit of a stigma attached to sort of.
Don't want to do with that, Dave. Miss bikes like that.
You're a bit eager with that, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's almost a stigma that you think, well, it's not the top of the range pole, so it can't be that good. But you know, £1,400 is a lot of money. And you know, it needs careful consideration, you know, any sort of purchase like that. So it's almost interesting, especially with someone who's used the top of the range, to see if you can sort of define the differences. You know, where has that other couple of £1,000 gone? You know, on the pole, and is there a massive difference in you know, in the way they handle and they're made up?
Well, that's a question I've been asked a lot. I mean, to tell the full story of my sort of history with Daiwa poles, when I worked for Pole Fishing magazine about sort of probably 6 years ago now, I got the Daiwa G50, Connoisseur G50, which in some ways was a predecessor to this model. And the reason I got it was at that time I was doing a lot of river fishing, a lot of canal fishing, deep canal fishing. So it was important to me to be able to get a lot of spares, spare number 4s, spare number 5s, etc. So you can have a lot of sections, so you can set up the rigs you need to on them sort of venues. Cost was a prohibitive factor. I was lucky enough to work in the trade, so I was helped in some sense. But you know, at the end of the day, an Air Z with 8 or 10 top 5s would have been out of my price point. Simple as that. And I think, as you say, a lot of people are in a similar position. You know, if you look at how much it would cost you to get kitted out with what you need to fish a manner of venues of different depths with top 4 kits and top 5 kits, with that Air Z, you're talking tens of thousands of pounds, and that's you know, that's no exaggeration when you look at the full RRP on everything you need. A second pole, a lot of top 5s, a lot of top 4s, all that sort of thing. So to me, it was the obvious choice. The retail similar to this, just over £1,000, I think. And obviously, with my job at the time, I was out testing a lot of different poles of different price points as well. So it was a good opportunity really to gauge what I was getting for my money. And I've got to say, the length we're at now, at 13 metres, the difference between this G90 and the Daiwa Air Z is absolutely minimal. Back straight away there. You know, yes, you can tell the difference a little bit at 13 metres. Mine's marginally stiffer, marginally wider, but it's pretty much the case throughout poles that. Oh,
you might hit one of those in a minute.
You reckon?
I reckon you're going to get one soon.
You know, the simple fact of the matter is, you don't. There's not a lot of difference between a pole of 1,200 quid and a pole of £3,000 at 13 metres. I don't think anyway.
No, and I think this is something that the way I've understood it with poles is that there is, the money comes into the amount of carbon that's put into them and the different types of carbon, and the, you know, we fish a lot in this country now at you know, 14, 16 metres. A lot of places you go to, you just start at 16 metres. You know, so poles have had to get better in that sense. Now, there's lots of 60-metre poles on the market, but it is when you put those next 2 sections on, that's when you tend to notice the difference.
Absolutely.
Because you know, I always say when you're pole fishing, that's your, you know, those butt sections are generally, that's your control centre. You know, that needs to be stable and it needs to be reactive. And there's, you know, a lot of the fishing we do is lifting, dropping, little movements on the float, and to be able to keep control, you don't want a float that's a pole that's too bouncy. And I've always understood it, you know, and always felt that that's the key areas with poles. And when you go down in price bracket on a pole, that's what you tend to lose. It's almost like the price comes off the butt sections, if you like.
That's right.
You know, and I know manufacturers are putting more carbon in now, and you know that this side of the tech. You know, we always talk about technology improving, but in pole design, it genuinely does, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, I think it's an evolving process. And like I say, now, what you're getting for your money with, you know, a 16 metre pole now, compared to what you'd have got 10 years ago, is, you know, you I wouldn't say they're unusable at 16 metres, but literally it would be like holding a banana.
Well, that's the next thing I'm gonna come on to, really. I mean, I think the reason I've got an AirZ now is it is notably better, or was notably better than the G50 at that length. You know, so I thought, when I won a bit of money, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to treat myself, and that's what I chose to treat myself to.
What, did you do, the lottery or something?
Believe it or not, I'll tell you what I actually won when I bought my first Air, and that was the Drennan Lindholme Cup. I used the money from that.
I didn't know you'd won that. You never mentioned that.
Did not mention it? I'll tell you all about it later, my old mate. I can't believe you're taking the mickey about things like that. 2 hours we had of him telling us how good he is on the Y last month. Unbelievable.
I'm only jealous.
But yeah, I think that's what we need to do. In a minute, I'm going to put a 14.5 metre section on, and then I'm going to go to 16 metres, and that's where I'd expect to see this pole maybe suffer compared to the more expensive counterparts. But we'll have a look. And in fact, I've plumbed up, it's a similar depth to 13 right out to that island at 16 metres there. So we'll do that now. We'll slip the 14.5 metre joint on there. Just have a look which one that is. That's that one.
There's always fun with Daiwa poles. There's a cleanness to them,
Absolutely.
to the joints. Now everything is very. It just all knits together nicely. You know, there's like sort of you can feel it tightening up as you push a section in and twist. You know, that sort of twist lock sort of thing. It's
absolutely. I'll tell you what, my experience of Daiwa poles compared to others. Like, people compare a lot between brands, don't they? It's one of the most talked about things between anglers, and there's some who are diehard Daiwa fans, some are diehard Preston fans, Garbarino fans, etc. General observation: Daiwa poles are not always as stiff as their counterpart. What was a slightly better fish?
That was, wasn't it? Can't believe you missed that.
Not always as stiff as the counterparts, not always as light as the counterparts, but they are certainly more responsive.
Yeah.
I often think, and also I think they're a lot harder wearing than a lot of other brands as well. Like, the number of friends I've had, more than one, and I'm obviously not going to name any names, who've had Daiwa poles, moved to other brands, and all of a sudden they start breaking sections, and that's because, you know, they do seem that little bit more rugged, that little bit hard wearing.
Do you know, I've noticed as well now, I was looking the other day and I noticed that, like, the Tournament Pros, you know, which was the flagship pole, which the Air and everything sort of derived from, those are still holding their price massively in a second-hand market. That's how good they are, how good, you know, that brand is, and their top-end pole. And I don't think, in all fairness, I think Daiwa have probably had the best pole for flagship poles for the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
Would that be unfair to say that?
I don't think it would, David. It's interesting you mentioned the Tournament Pro. A client of mine at Catchmore Media, Wickersley Angling, they actually still get the original Tournament Pros made and sell an awful lot of them. We did a video last year and they sold about 18 poles off the back of it. Yeah. Which shows, A, just how good they are for the price point, the original Tournament Pro, and B, yes, they do still stand up against the best poles of today, really. You know, it's what's this?
That elastic stretching there.
Let's just see. It's not very happy, is it? It's going under that island.
Have you got some rather flimsy Yorkshire gear on?
Flimsy York. We don't. You know me. We don't want to be bumping fish. You know, I have bumped a few fish.
So go on then. What terminal gear have we got on there?
So this is Daiwa's yellow hydro elastic.
Lovely elastic. We love that.
And I've got to say, it's actually the first time I've used it. To be fair,
it's fantastic.
This is the first good fish I've hooked it. Normally I'd use a Preston 8 holler for this sort of thing, or a single number 6. You're going to net it for me?
I'm going to net it for you.
What a guy.
Because I'm a gentleman.
Oh,
look,
an F1.
A little Formula 1, look. So what we got? What are we on? Point?
It's a 013 mainline, 4x14 original Preston Chianti, the old faithful.
You like them, don't you?
Strung out number 11s, and we've got an 08 hook length and a size 16 Gamma Katsu green Gamma on there.
08.
08.
We're fishing for carp. Or F1s.
Yeah, we'll land them on this, don't worry about it.
Right, so I spend my winter fishing for roach.
Look at that, let's go, look, come on Dave, get on the old, there's a smile on the old beauty, come on. Come on, he was a pretty boy, eh?
So I spend my winter fishing for roach, and I'm using 013 hook lengths on stick floats.
Yeah.
But you're coming carp fishing and fishing 08s.
But you're an animal. No, this is
No,
well,
no,
well
I'm not.
documented.
That's quite tame to what some people use. But I'm just, no, I know this. This is winter F1 fishing. It's very good, and I do you know, I like. People talk. I get it because I'm sort of, you know, pigeonholed as a river angler, and people talk about F1s, and people from the river scene talk about it like it's a dirty word, you know, like it's commercials, and you'll have a bag of roach and they'll say, oh, that's proper fishing. Now I hate that because I love my commercial fishing as well, and I used to do a lot of this. I just choose not to with time and everything these days. I just choose to just stick to the rivers and what have you. However, I have to say, like, the way you're fishing is nothing unusual when you're fishing for F1s at any time of year. And I've watched, you know, some of these young lads coming through now who've sort of grown up around the north and these venues and that. The way they fish for these F1s is as fine and as refined as you would fish for roach with bloodworm and things. The rigs and that. I mean, I looked at your rig. It's a work of art. There's like little.
That's the nicest things.
No, but there's shots I can't even see on there. All dotted down like it's quite.
Absolutely,
quite
and to be honest, for this sort of fishing, you need a good pole. You need a stiff pole because you are working the rig a lot. All right, we're early in the session at the minute. I'm building the peg up. It's not lifting and dropping and laying the rig in as much as it would be later. But, you know, this is one area where a good pole really pays off. Obviously, I've pushed it out to 14.5 metres now, Dave. That is absolutely awesome at 14.5 metres.
It looks good in all fairness, I have to say.
It's stiff, very responsive. We've got one of the Intelastic top kits on there. So it's not a match kit, so it's the heavier of the two top kits that we've got on there. Daiwa do a match kit for this. Well, there's a variety of top kits, some short kits and everything available if you want to go through the full range. But with this pole, in terms of what's supplied, you can have a more match kit package, which is obviously more match kits and I think 1 or 2 Intelastic puller kits, or the one I've got here is supplied with more Intelastic puller kits, and that's what I've actually elasticated up here. So it's the heavier top kit of the two that I've supplied with. I've got to say, 14.5 metres, absolutely stunning. I can see you're itching to have a go at this, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to sneak a 16 metre section on now.
What, for me to have a go with?
I'm going to have a quick go,
all right.
And then we'll let you have a go on the box. How does that make you feel?
Can I fish at 6 metres?
You can do whatever you want. You're Dave Roberts.
All right, okay.
Let's lay it in there. Now, I reckon this could be worth an F1.
You've poked it into the bush there, haven't you?
Yeah,
I mean, you can't fail.
Just encroaching on the bush a little bit there.
Not for the first time.
Oh, not for the first time this week. Here we go.
That's going to go, isn't it?
You reckon?
That's going to go.
Tell you what, it's lovely to fish with at that length. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've got conditions nice today. It's quite windy, but it's off our back. It's sat nicely.
So I would say, like, what we're going back to what we were saying about the performance at 16 metres. I'd say one of the downfalls of a lot of poles when you go to the longer lengths is the response time between you lifting, you know, jerking it, lifting it with your knee or however you strike.
Yes.
And then there's almost like a delay. Before the tip comes in. So that's, I think, I'm interested to see this now. Just see it, you know, how quick, you know, because that, you know, ultimately that can lead to missing bites and things like that, you know, which obviously you've shown you're very adept at missing bites so far.
I'm brilliant at that.
But I don't think that's the pole's fault, is it?
Well, there's two things, isn't there? Two considerations. As I said earlier, stiffness and responsiveness. And like a lot of people say, well, what's the difference between the two? And it does seem to me that some poles are like bumped it. Some poles are like a poker. Am I in the bush there?
You've just swung that into the bush.
I've encroached on the bush, guys.
Oh no!
I have to retrieve.
Oh look, you've got it back.
Yeah, so I did that.
In all fairness, I think you only pulled that a little bit. Your 08's probably smashed to smithereens.
No, my get's still on, mate. There's a roach there waiting for me. Yeah, stiffness and responsiveness. And some poles seem really stiff. But I don't know when you actually fish with them.
Yeah.
They're not as responsive. You know, you can pick up a thing that's like a poker. When you strike, I don't know, it don't behave quite the same. Daiwas do seem really nice. And, you know, the way I struck into that bush just then, you've got to say, it was...
oh, here we go.
Here we go. But it is a roach. But I'm still going to let you have a go next. I've got to say, that's 16 metres, or it's actually 15.5 metres. There is a half extension to take it over the 16 metre point, which we can have a play with shortly. But to all intents and purposes, it's your 3 coloured sections. It's as long as most anglers would normally fish with the pole.
Yeah.
That is absolutely stunning for the money. Couldn't be more impressed. Do you want to have a little go?
I do.
Come on then.
Oh, I'm getting cold here. Oh, Robin just flew out the tree.
Hop on there, my old beauty. Be careful, I know what it's like when you get to your age.
30? Right. No, I'm not going to go to a full 16 metres.
No?
No, I don't need to go there yet. Let's just shorten this down. There is something about the finish on it. I'd say they do seem to get there aesthetically, and they feel good as well, you know.
Yeah. Same finish. I'm sure if you looked at the catalogue and spoke to the technicians at Daiwa, they'd tell you there is a slightly different finish between that and the AirZ. I think it's called diamond satin on the AirZ that you get. But that is a lovely, lovely finish. And to be honest, between the G50, which I had before, which was very similar to that, and the AirZ, have I noticed a remarkable improvement in the finish of the pole? Probably not. So it's one of them things I'd perhaps discount in terms of an improvement, you know? I can tell you don't do this very much.
Do you realise it's like months since I shipped out a pole to 40.5 metres? I'd usually be lobbing a bollo out there. However, I mean, it's just like riding a bike in it. I'm sure it won't be long before it comes back.
We'll have to see, won't we?
With this delicate rig, look at that, straight on the money.
Tell you what, that was
away.
good. A bit past your pole tip, but you know, can be forgiven.
Well, no, they tend to just sit off it a little bit, don't they? I like to fish inside my feet. I was quite disappointed when you went in the shop. You said you were going to get some maggots, and you went in the shop. And you appear to have come back with a pint.
Well,
I was thinking, you know, it's a cold day. We might only need 3.
I don't know. The problem with that River White, turns you all into animals, doesn't it? No finesse, you boys anymore.
I don't know.
Throw it in, put a gaff on, and see what you can hit your chest. That's about the game, isn't it? Put a meat hook on, swing everything.
Do you think we'll catch on meat today?
And there we are.
Oh, look at that. That's a beast to start with, isn't it?
Go on then, Dave. 13 metres or just under. What's your view?
That's coming in nicely, isn't it? It just, you know, I know it's actually more going backwards when I'm putting it back on the rollers. It's not sort of bending over the roller, and you know, there's not a lot of play in there. I have to say, it's not the biggest roach I've caught this winter.
No. Small but perfectly formed.
Like me. Right, so. At any stage, would you think about putting a double maggot on or anything like that? Or
You can try that. I mean,
I'm not going to do it, no, because I feel like I'm just.
I'll tell you one trick that really works well on here. I can't take any credit for this. It's Jamie Hughes who told me about this, but the old side up maggot. That's a deadly trick on Lindholme in winter. That. For an F1 later in the day. Normally you'll catch roach, get bite, tide, chub, odd skimmer early, and then as the day goes on, it just gets better and better with the F1s.
I do feel like in winter when you're fishing like this, I like fishing maggots because I always feel like you can feed. That's one thing I don't like is when you go to venues where you're literally scared to put any bait in your kinder cup and things like that. I feel like with maggots you can get away with feeding. It's
a brilliant tactic. On this, the thing I like about it as well in match fishing is A, you're building your peg all the time. B, you're putting the opposition on the back foot all the time because you're being busy, you're building your peg, you know. You're going to go in and get a bite every chuck all day. If it's a good day, if the F1s feed, they'll probably push the small fish out and you'll do very well. If it's not a good day, you're going to do very well with the silvers. So, to me, it's a lovely way of fishing venues like this.
I'm going to put the extra section on in a minute and have
Sneak out to 14.5.
Yeah, it's just nice to get used to
holding
the pole again. That you see, I've obviously got the roach cess, so I don't need to do any more of that.
I'll tell you, that yellow hydro, I've never used it before, but it creeps out quite nicely.
Yeah, I've actually used it for like skimmers and roach and stuff like that. It's a real nice elastic. It can do a number of things. You got to disgorge it.
Have you got that out there? Ah, it's coming.
Oh, I got it. That's all right.
Some pliers there if you need them. Go on then, stick a joint on. We're at 14.5 metres.
Right, okay.
Don't want you enjoying yourself too much. We're here to work, you know.
Well, I'm just getting back into the swing of things, really. I'm not, like I say, this ain't my usual winter surroundings.
One thing is worth just sort of mentioning about these poles as well is, if you look in the Daiwa range, they might not thank me for saying this, but I do believe it's here. You're actually creeping out towards 16 metres there. But if you go and look in the Daiwa range, there's a price point, and this G90 is just into it, where the poles are actually made in Wishaw in Scotland, made in the UK.
Right.
Below that, they're made abroad. I think there's a massive step up in quality between the poles made elsewhere and the UK made poles.
Right.
I've always felt that. Prior to it being the G90, they said the G50 was the first UK made pole, and I felt that was stunning for the money, and I think that's similar really, absolutely exceptional.
I like how I've just gone, I bypassed the 14 metre stage, I just went straight out and I've already missed 3 bites, but that's me. But no, I like it, I'm just sort of, bearing in mind I say I haven't held a long pole for a long time, but it feels very, very comfortable. I just need to catch an F1 now, just to really give it a.
You've got to be really good to catch the F1s here, mate. I don't know whether you'll manage it, to be fair.
Well, it sounds like some sort of challenge you're laying down there.
I want to just talk briefly, Dave, about something else I like about how the new Daiwa poles are supplied now. They all come pre-bushed, whether you get the more matched package or the more power package, and they also come with a clean nose in the number 3 section. So obviously that helps your elastic work well, and just keeps everything working smoothly. That's done for you. Good quality PTFE, should I say, bushes. What are your thoughts on that? For you, I mean, you're obviously a top flight angler. Would you want it pre-supplied in that way, or would you want something you could fit yourself?
I think it's because we're all using very similar equipment, elastics and stuff. We use hollow elastics, whatever we use, but generally they're all very similar. So like the diameters you need for your bushes are all pretty much very similar. And people do still like to do that, I know, and cut them back and do them themselves. However, I would say, if you're buying a pole, one of the biggest, it's a big expenditure. You pay over £1,000 on a pole, and you think, you've had to really think about that, whether you can justify it. And then you buy the pole, and then by the time you go and buy all the bits and bobs to elasticate it. Now, I know a good tackle shop will do it for you, but as anglers, we generally like to do things ourselves. But even then, whether a tackle shop's doing it for you or you're doing it yourself, you'll spend a good wedge buying all the bits to elasticate it. So I think it takes a lot of that out of the equation. It also means you can just get your pole on the bank and start using it, once you've got your elastics in. Yeah. So I like that. I do like that idea. I'm not. I wouldn't want all of them done. I'd still like to do a few myself, Just
for the sake of posterity.
Yes. But I can imagine the ease of having it there, just being able to just set a pole up new, you want to get it out, or say you've bought the pole and you decide to buy a couple of extra top kits, they're just ready to go, aren't they? So
I think it's I'm on the lazy side with stuff like that, but I do, like as you said, there's nothing wrong with the bushes that come in the pole. For my AZ, when I bought that a few months ago, I just elasticated it off, I went, it's been great, there's no problem with the quality, and I just think, why not,
Yeah, it's worth. I think it's a good idea. I think it's the way forward, and like I say, and we do. I've spoken to people, in the tackle trade about this, and they say that the recurring theme now with anglers and tackle is we don't want to do anything ourselves anymore. We buy ready tied hook lengths, we buy ready rigs, all kinds of things, So that just ties in with that, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely. One final point then about this pole and the package. I don't like the fact that it's not 16 metres, i.e. with your 3 coloured sections, it's not a true 16 metres. What's this we've got here?
I think it's probably another roach, but a slightly better one,
nice.
More the sort of stamp I've become accustomed to.
You Y anglers are spoiled, aren't you? Yeah, I do think if they could make, don't swing it, Dave.
No.
Don't swing it. You're not on the Y now.
Do you know, there's a rule with that, right? If you think about netting it, net it.
Sure, isn't it?
The minute you pause, you'll pull out of it. That's more like it, isn't it? That's a winter roach.
Bloody lovely.
I want an F1 though. I still want an F1.
I'm sure we'll get an F1 feedback.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I would love to see a true 16 metre pole as supplied, 3 coloured sections, without having to use the half extension that's supplied with it. But I've got to quantify that and say, somebody like me who's got an air, if you're looking for a second pole that you could maybe interchange all your sections with, I mentioned before about having spare 4s and 5s, etc. The great thing about this, it doesn't change with everything above it in the range.
Oh right, okay. So is that coming off the same mandrel then? Or is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's off the same mandrel as everything except the XLS poles.
Right.
And the only difference with them, I think, is obviously from your coloured sections and the one before it. So your 11 metre, 13 metre, 14.5 and 16 metre section, in effect.
Right.
So that to me is a big plus as well.
It is. This whole under 16. You know, you're used now to buying a 16 metre pole. It does matter. You know, when you're. This is one venue in particular where it happens. You know, some of these islands are set at 16 metres, and it is frustrating when you're fishing and you can't just quite reach there, or you've got to fish a longer line, or you're reaching all the time and that. It's something I have. You know, I've owned and fished with poles that are less than 16 metres, and then you know, obviously. On top kits that aren't pre-bushed or whatever, you know, a lot of the time you're taking the number one out and things like that, and that shortens the pole again. So yeah, it is a little. I just wonder how much more technology is required to make it just a genuine 16 metre pole. But
yeah,
that's up to the consumer, isn't it? But I think
absolutely.
I think if you're an angler who's buying this, you know, going into this price bracket of poles, you've got to weigh up where do you fish. How often do you fish 16 metres? You know, and if the answer is not all the time, it's there if I need it occasionally, then you've got, this is the sort of pole you need to be looking at, because it's the thing. If I'm fishing 16 metres, I can do it. I could fish like this all day, not a problem. But if I was looking for top performance at 16 metres, then I think you spend more money, and that comes with the standard you're fishing at. You know, it doesn't. If you're fishing on you know, Fishermania finals or, you know, top flight match fishing, naturally you're going to want to fish with the very best you can.
Absolutely. Now, so to sum up then, what are your thoughts? Marks out of 10, come on.
I'd give this a good 8.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's a good, you know, it's, and in its price bracket, I suppose if you're judging it on its price bracket alone and what it would be up against in the others, then I think it would be a 9. Well,
for me, I have to agree with that. The only way it could be better, in my opinion, would be if it was a true 16 metres. But obviously, you've got that option with the half extension, and for the price, well, absolutely remarkable piece of kit. Should we do a bit of Waggler fishing now?
Well, we should have a go, seeing as I've not caught any F1s. Do you want to catch F1s on Waggler, do you think?
Depends how good you are.
Can I catch chub on Waggler?
Chance. I caught a chub last week on the teams of 3 at Christmas.
You're really good, aren't you?
Should we have a go?
Let's do it.
Well, I must say, Dave, you look much more at home with a rod back in your hand.
It's not a bit of Waggler fishing. It's what we like. A bit more active. Spraying a bit of bait about. It's where I'm happiest.
The tool you've got in your hand there, Cadence 11-foot match Waggler rod. Now, I'm really interested to review this bit of kit because there's plenty of pellet Waggler rods out there. There's plenty of stiffer action, we'll say, rods at this sort of length for pellet Waggler work. And there's also some lovely soft, longer rods, you know, that probably you'll use on the Y and that sort of venue for your silverfish bashing in sort of 13-foot and longer lengths. But this 11-foot length is increasingly important on venues like this for commercial silverfish. Even winter F1 fishing, you know, light lines, small hooks, etc. And as a man who's done an awful lot of Waggler fishing over the years, I just want to start by asking your impressions on it, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing you notice when you take it out of the bag is just how slim it is. You know, it's a real slim little rod, you know, and absolutely delightful, really, and it just looks lovely. We have shortened down our rods on commercials, you know, for obvious reasons. But like you say, the shorter rods these days tend to be sort of specifically about pellet Waggler rods, you know, for catching big weights and, you know, catching bigger fish. Now, so this rod is a break from that. I'd say my first impression is that, you know, there's no doubt that it would probably, you'd handle bigger fish on it, you know, no problem at all. But what we're doing here what I'm doing here is fishing, you know, very sort of like winter style, you know, fishing a Waggler with strung out, slow falling bait, you know, single and double maggots, and trying to catch everything, roach and skimmers. I've had a couple of roach and a couple of skimmers, and it's a very, you know, it's a very light rod, but it's a light action rod. So, you know, when you are catching those smaller fish, you can, the rod's bending, you know, you can feel them. It's lovely to play fish on. I'd like to catch a bigger fish on it actually and see how it handles up, but certainly for the, you know, the softer maize of skimmers and roach and stuff, so far it's been lovely to use.
I think that's you just hit the nail on the head there with what I'd look for in this sort of rod. I mean, I fish a lot of silverfish matches, venues like here at Lindholme, Hallcroft Fisheries, prime example, woodlands up at Thirsk, and especially on venues like this and woodlands where it's shallow water, you need to be aware that A, the soft-mouthed fish, but B, if you enter them with even a slightly stiff rod, they're going to come straight to the top, splash on the surface, and that just knackers the job up, doesn't it? Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, it's just this is just you know, it's quite a refined way of fishing. And say not always the first option on commercial fishers, but like I say, with more and more silverfish matches and things like that now, this is you know, and in cold conditions as well. I mean, what you know, you can, like say, you can sort of ship out a pole and on hard days, but the reality is you know, those fish might not be in the mood to move around, and you have to go further afield. And this is just a nice way, I say, of fishing through the water, generating bites, and it might be small fish to start, but I've no doubt that you catch some bigger fish as well on it.
Talk us through the setup you've got on there.
Okay, so I've just gone for a light sort of 3 pound 016 main line. It's a roach I think.
Roach, yeah.
You can see like that's bending through, you know, it's nice. It's not, oh. I pulled out of that one then. Famous last words.
Famous last words.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's all I've got is a 3.5 AA Waggler, little insert, dotted right down, with just strung out number 10s down, so it's falling through the water at a nice steady pace. I'm just loose feeding maggots. You know, I'm not holding back with the loose feed. I like to, you know, you're spreading it around a bit more so you can get more in there. And I'm just letting it fall through, and eventually it's landing on the bottom, but I've also given myself the option that if anything wants to intercept it on the way down, I'll see those bites as well. But like I say, I'm just fishing you know, an 18 hook and an 011 hook length, which I'm sure you'll scorn at with your Yorkshire ways.
No, I think 011's not too. I might use 010 myself on this, but animal like you catch a lot bigger fish than me. Don't forget that as well.
Yeah. See, there's a little roach, but catching a mixture of
into that, doesn't it? You know, when you hooked it, that's what I'm looking for, because there's not a lot of rods out there for this sort of fishing. Browning did one a couple of years ago, designed for the drains, for fishing wagglers on the drains. I think it was called the Hot Rods Special Rod, and that was sadly discontinued. And this, you know, it just strikes me as perfect. It won't have escaped your attention either, folks, that the weather's took a turn for the worst. It's raining quite unpleasantly here at the minute. And I can see, Dave, the line's not sticking anywhere. It seems to be...
No, it runs... I mean, it's all... you know, we've come to know with the Cadence rods now what you get. You know, it's everything's been chosen specifically, you know, and it's good quality stuff, you know. That was on the drop. You know, it just everything's neat and tidy. It's, you know, it's where it should be. There's no, you know, I did have a close look at the guides and stuff before, and there's no like sort of, there's not slightly better roach. You know, there's no sort of blobs of varnish and things like that, which you sometimes get with some, you know, rods that are, you know, produced in, you know, in bulk. But it's lovely, you know. It's got all the little features, the little hookup.
Yeah, read on the website about it. It's Fiji guides, Fiji real seat, you know. So
Fiji or Fuji?
Well, got it how you want. You hear people say things in strange ways.
It's coming from a Yorkshireman. But no, it does, you know, it feels nice, and I mean, I suppose this sort of rod, you know, it's in some ways it could be a specialist tool. You know, it's perhaps not something that you'd use every week, or it might be a tool. You know, you could go and use this on your local canal or something. You know, there's a multitude of ways you could use it, and it might be a specialist tool. But as we've come to know with Cadence, you know, it prices itself in the bracket that it's not an extravagant specialist tool. You know, you're not going to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on it. It'll be a good rod at a good price.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sub 100 quid. 99 quid's the RRP on that.
Yeah, so it's not breaking the bank, and it's a nice tool just to have in the bag. You know, it doesn't take up a lot of room. It's 2-piece 11 foot. You know, it slides into. You know, it'd just be nice to have in the bag and use on occasions like this. But.
Absolutely. I want to just ask you a bit more broadly before I kick you off the box and have a go myself, because I'm itching to have a go at this.
You're not having a go until I catch another skimmer or something more decent.
Oh, you had a skimmer before we started filming, didn't you?
I did. But,
See, it's all right, anyone can catch it before we start filming. The skill here is catching them when the camera's rolling. Cadence as a brand. You mentioned there what you've come to expect from Cadence, which I thought was quite an interesting statement. I don't really know that much about them. Just tell me about what you've seen.
Well, I suppose I know more about Cadence because James Robbins, who's the boss of Cadence, he spends a lot of time on the Y. He's done a lot of his testing on the Y, and a lot of the original rods that he brought in were like sort of the longer rods that we use on the river. Like sort of not bollo rods, but longer rods, for fishing bollos and stick floats and things like that. So, so we were seeing a lot of Cadence rods on the bank, and so I got to see them, got to hold them and use them, and so they were specifically brought in for that job. And then all James is doing is, as he sees different opportunities, and he'll bring in different rods, and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing, he set out with a the company set out with a plan of what they were targeting, areas they were targeting, and that's been successful for them. And the rods that I've seen have all been good quality, but they put themselves, it's on the drop, they put themselves in an affordable price bracket, which I think is important, because you don't just buy one of everything. Certainly as river anglers, we want two 15-foot rods or two 16-foot rods or whatever it is. You don't want just one. So it's enabled people to buy the range, and I think it's just been very well done. The Cadence thing. It can't be easy bringing a complete new brand into the UK market.
Well, let's not forget James is a pillar of the trade. Really, he's been in it a long time. Worked for Pure Fishing for a long time before that. Knows it like the back of his hand, and I've got to say, lovely bloke.
Yeah, smashing guy. No, real nice guy, and does a lot in as well as his business. He's very involved with fishing, and I say he's very sort of pro youngsters and that sort of thing. He wants to help out, so he's done a grand job with it. And I say he's a nice guy, and like you say, he knows the trade. He knows where to get what he wants, and that's half the battle, isn't it? Because it's not easy to source the right equipment.
He is, I think a major part of their ethos as well. Reading on the website, some money from every sale goes in towards generating new anglers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Putting kids back into the sport. Really, they've got a real strong conscience about them as a brand, and
we're seeing more of that now as well. I've spoke to a couple of companies recently that they're very keen to do something, because they've realised now that helping youngsters is not just a gimmicky sort of PR exercise. They realise that there's no one else out there really doing lots to get youngsters into the trade, and they realise there's a responsibility amongst the manufacturers that their future customers are going to have to be generated by some of their activities.
Yeah.
So I think, like you say, Cadence are leading the way with that, and I know other companies, other companies are doing the same. And I think more and more are going to have to follow, because it's not going to fix itself.
Absolutely not. Speaking of not fixing itself, shall I show you how to catch some bigger fish on the Waggler?
I'm not letting you have a go yet.
Come on.
You're not sitting here. You're not sitting here until I've caught the bigger one. My
Old
reputation's
people
at
like you
stake.
shouldn't be out in the rain for as long as this.
Old people. Have you heard it? I'll make you look young. My maggots come off now as well. I'm having one more cast.
One more cast.
And then I'm giving up with a fight.
Well, the larger weights, the hot tub weight.
So tell me then, is this what Yorkshire's like in winter every day? Is it just like this every day?
It's mild for Yorkshire.
Is it mild?
Yeah.
Do you?
This isn't proper Yorkshire anyway. We're on this is the edge of the flatlands.
Are we in Yorkshire?
Technically, maybe just.
Well, that's all that matters.
Isle of Axholme. It's not. Yeah. On the periphery.
What about Lincolnshire then? Are Lincolnshire people, are they tight?
Flatlanders. Interesting breed they are. What happened there?
I missed a bite, simple as that. One more cast. One more cast.
We'll
the famous one more cast.
Come on then.
It's not like it's raining or anything, It's not like it's pleasant, isn't it? Have we got budget to do the next review in Barbados or something?
Oh, I don't know about that. It's mild over there for a Yorkshire, like me.
That's all right. We'll slap you some sun cream on. It's got to be better than this. Suddenly,
We do call it wind gnome for a reason, you know.
Suddenly, being in a hot tub with you is actually quite an attractive prospect.
Well, we'll get in the hot tub and see what pops up, shall we?
Okay.
Lovely.
Right, I'm
Come on.
gonna have this skimmer now. I reckon we're gonna get a bite any second. I think maybe going a bit more over depth with a double maggot. Ooh.
You don't let them develop, do you? You like Zorro.
Yeah, well, what's
Let them swallow it.
once it's gone under, isn't it? I mean, it's.
About 3 inches on the bottom there. 3 inches.
Is that 3 inches, is it?
I'd say so.
I thought that was 8. Double maggot. Do you know, I've had some lovely days here though in the summer, when it's been really hot, like, and it is, because like I say, it does, because it is flat, it does catch the wind here. But it's, I'm just thinking back to some of the days I've had here where it's been blazing sunshine, and but with a little ripple of breeze.
Gorgeous, isn't it?
Shorts, t-shirts.
Yeah. Not today.
No, not today. Right, this time. So we've just gone a bit more further over depth.
So you've just put another few inches on the deck in your desperate attempt to secure a better fish.
It's not desperate, Tom. It's all calculated. I'm just feeling my way in. It's just you're being a bit impatient and trying to kick me off all the time. So I've just put another sort of like 3 or 4 inches on the deck just to hold it down a bit, and I put a double maggot on with the hope of picking out one of these bigger fish that I know are there. But I'm just being, and I know I'd catch them, but you're just putting pressure on me now. So I've had to make changes quick.
It's called The Review, this, It's not the Dave Roberts show.
No,
about reviewing tackle.
I know, but you sit on your pole and catch your F1s, and it's your, one of your local venues, so you know it like the back of your hand. And and everybody, I'll go away from here. Everybody was saying, "Oh, he's only good on rivers, that Dave Roberts. He can't catch carp.
Listen,
can't
mate,
catch skimmers."
I've got to say, joking aside, the Waggler's going in beautifully. It's sat beautifully.
I would like to watch myself if it was possible. Perhaps I'll watch this back.
I wouldn't say it's anything big you're doing wrong. I think it's probably just quite a few little things that I would change to catch a bigger fish.
Well, so this is the final episode of the review we're ever doing, is it? You can go off.
I'm sorry. I'll be nice now.
This is, in all fairness, though. I mean, this is a lovely way of fishing. You can't deny it, can you? Wagglers, I've just got a little insert waggler on there, and I've got it dotted right down. That was dragging a little bit there. I've got it dotted right down, and I'm fishing for everything.
Is there something around there? Or not?
Oh, someone's had a suck on that. Look at that.
Someone's had a go.
There's a little suck on that, so that's them not getting past those little fish. I'm just having one more cast, Tom, all right?
One more cast, folks.
All right,
one more
just
cast.
because I just feel like I need to see this project through.
Fact of the matter is, Dave, you peaked too early. You caught your skimmer before the cameras were rolling.
I know. I did worry about that, but they'll come.
They'll come. Keep feeding.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't do is I'm not cutting back. It's not happening. Right, this time.
In the summer, this is one of the best pegs. Well, it's a good peg in the winter as well, but this
I have drawn around here in different matches over the years, and it's
doesn't
always
surprise me, to be honest.
Why?
I'm not saying you draw well or anything.
I've had some good wins here actually.
Talk me through it. Fishermania?
No, I don't want to talk about it. It's
come
not,
on, Dave,
it's
come
not
on.
fair. It's not right. It's not the Dave Roberts show, but I mean, I suppose. What are your notable successes here, considering you've fished here all your life and you come
Notable
here every week?
successes here.
Yeah. What have you won here?
Won the Spring Festival 2 years ago.
Right. Okay.
Qualified for the Maver Pairs back in 2009.
I assume, as it's called the Maver Pairs, that you perhaps had a partner that perhaps could do with a mention at this stage.
You weren't very good.
Who would that be?
Matt Godfrey.
Right, okay. Do you think he deserved a mention, seeing as it was a pairs match?
He may have won the match that day, but it's not about.
Right, okay,
it's called the review. It's not called the Matt Godfrey show.
Was it on weight or section points?
It was on section points.
Right.
He won his section off this peg actually, or that peg, somewhere here.
Right.
And won the match. And I won my section on Oasis, which you'll see in a short while, Oasis, but it's now the back garden of the lodges.
Changed now.
Yeah.
So okay, so there's Maver pairs qualified. Anything else?
Quite a few. There's quite a lot here, to be fair. But come on, I know this isn't really about me.
No.
This is about you, isn't
Look,
it, Dave?
listen, not everyone. I mean, it's not the biggest fish in the world, but I mean, it's. I am giving up now. I'm just had enough. I'll come and have a go later when it all calms down. You have a go, Tom.
Come on, I'll have a go. And I want you to tell me about what you've won here at Lindholme, because I know there is quite a bit. Isn't there?
There's not quite a bit. No.
There is, mate. And we're talking big matches with you, aren't we? We're not talking small events.
Well, I did. I used to come to Lindholme and have. I always say with Lindholme, you'd come here, and even if you had a bad day, you'd have a day's fishing.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes I come here and get it dreadfully wrong, especially in the early days when I was still getting to grips with this commercial fishing.
Yeah.
And you'd always have like £60, and you always have which is a good weight anywhere. Yeah. But you'd be, you needed over 100, and it's always been. I think this is probably one of the, some would class it as the best. Now, well, this is interesting.
What's gone on? What's gone on there?
Now, my Waggler appears to be in the tree, Tom.
Quite know how that happened, David. That tree came out of nowhere.
You see, this is what happens when you put expensive tools in the hands of amateurs. This wasn't the way we were going to test the bend on this rod.
Was it? That's
absolutely golden, Tom.
Can you sort this out for me, Dave?
I can, Tom. I'll tell you what you do with this sort of thing.
On,
you don't put your rod at risk, okay? So what you do is you get the line, so you're not putting any stress on the rod. If you'll just hold the rod. Now I'm working on the theory, best case scenario, we lose the hook length here.
Right.
Now be careful, because obviously it's coming at you. It's a projectile. So I take the rod that way a little bit, because if that Waggler comes towards the rod at high speed, that's a bullet out of a gun, that is. I'm only putting myself at risk here. Now if you just wind up the slack line, please, Tom.
That tree literally came out of nowhere.
See, I do a lot of guiding, and I do get amateurs coming in. This is a day's work for me. This is a normal thing. So we've just lost a hook length. So luckily, I've got some ready tied for you.
Thank you very much. I'll tell you what, I can see why you are a successful coach, definitely. However, I can't believe you didn't warn me about that tree.
Anybody with just normal eyes would have seen the tree. I'm going to put this hook length on. I'm going to show you how to cast.
You're a great guy. I'm feeding it up for you.
Yeah, don't stop feeding. Could probably get away with putting an 017 on there, couldn't we, or something like that? Don't need to be that low.
Depends how many times we're going to hook the tree, doesn't it, really? 017, you have to pull a bit hard for a break there.
Yeah, perhaps the lighter hook length is the way forward. Now, do you want me to put your maggots on for you?
Go on then. You've started, so you might as well. Looks like we might have lost a shot as well.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. You've lost about 4.
Have we?
Luckily, I've got some in my pocket. I bet you edit this out.
This is definitely not making the cut, Jack. Jack, the cut, anything to do with trees and Wagglers. Especially involving me. Why would this be in there? This is not the Tom Scholey show.
I've got one there. Right, so would you like 1 maggot or 2 maggots?
2 maggots, sir, please. 2 maggots. We'll try and avoid the tree this time.
Do you know that wind and rain's just dropped a bit? It feels right now. I feel like you've sat on the box at the right time. I think you'll catch one now.
What I've done is I've used the to try and get this out there without hitting the tree.
So if you come round to the side, Tom, and behind you and straighten up and then straight forward, you should be okay.
Yeah, it should be that sort of thing, I suppose. Yeah. Lovely, cast very nicely. But that might be to do with your reel and line as well as the actual
Yeah, you've
line.
got. I mean, obviously, you're fishing. You know, we're fishing with a lot lighter setup than we normally do. So that's it. That's where I've been feeding, where those ducks are. So if you bring it over that, that's where they'll be.
Yeah,
Oh, you're backing off, are you?
just try just past the feed. The F1s here often do sit past the feed. And if I was to catch an F1 now, wouldn't that be something?
A miracle, even. Yeah, no, the setup of the rod is, you know, like I say, this is something we because we're always fishing for carp or whatever, you know, we tend to fish heavier lines and stuff like that. Or if you're in summer fishing an 11-foot rod, you probably have, you know, pellet waggler line or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's nice just to fish a nice, like I say, it's like an 016 main line. It's just, you know, nice shots, number 10s dotted down. Oh, he's struck into it. What's he got?
It's a roach. Oh. I'm afraid it's not the F1 I was hoping.
I don't think that roach deserved a strike like that.
Well, you know. You saw me on the pole, you saw me on the Waggler, we sink the steel here in Yorkshire. I must say though, it's soft enough, you know,
that's
fish like
I mean.
that. They're the ones you bump and splash and cause you the problems on stiffer gear, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it gets those. Like I say, you are literally, you're fishing for everything. So, and if you imagine if you took this rod onto a canal, your local canal, you'd be doing the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because people do that, don't they? They do. You know, we forget that we used to. There was life before poles, wasn't there?
Well, that's right. You know, it's
your casting's a bit erratic.
Erratic. I've got erotic casting.
The rod casts lovely, but it's just. I think it's the pilot that seems to be letting it down.
I've got to be honest, mate. It's not something I do a lot of. This sort of thing.
I can see.
I'll tell you what. It's great to be here. It's great to be sat on the box doing it.
Yeah. That's what we forget as well about commercial venues, isn't it? I know we are seeing more silverfish matches these days, but some of your best days can be when you don't sort of just decide you're going to fish for carp and F1s.
Yeah,
just come and fish for everything, and they are usually the best days.
I mean, I've got indications then, I think. The thing is with it here, you know, it's such a prolific venue. There's so many F1s and carp. Somebody somewhere often sits on a pile of them, and to win the match, generally, yes, you know, dobbing, that sort of thing. This time of year, bomb and corn's very good. Nick Speed does really well on that. But like, I'm similar to you, Dave, in that, you know, I don't get to fish every day of the week. So when I come out, it's nice to. Let's come back up or not there. Might have a roach on. When I come out, it's nice just to.
But you didn't see a bite then, did you? You just wound in and there was a roach at the end.
It wasn't that I didn't see a bite, it was that you didn't see a strike.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's, you know, I only get out fishing myself 2 days a week often, and it's nice when you do get out to get some bites. I do find winter ledgering, for want of a better way of putting it, incredibly boring.
Do you know, I've had this conversation before, and I like to say, each to their own, and everybody, you know, does different things for their winter, and ultimately we go fishing, and whatever you get out of fishing, that's great. But I'll go and fish the river, and there's occasions when you'll blank on the river.
Yeah.
But I'd probably rather do that than sit with a bait that I can't feed, you know, so like sort of sitting on a piece of popped up bread or a bomb and corn with you're not being able to feed anything, just literally waiting for a fish to swim past and think. I struggle with that, to be honest, but, you know, respect to those who do it, that's what they enjoy and crack on, but I think I'd rather do this sort of thing.
Absolutely, and as I said, the nice thing at Lindholme is a very consistent money-winning approach. Loose feeding maggots, catch a bit of everything, fish of all different stamps and species, and build your peg up, and as you say, you have a nice day while you're at it.
Oh, I thought that was a big one then, isn't it?
Don't worry, Dave, it was a carefully calibrated strike. I dropped the odd one in there, haven't you?
That's a better stamper, that is. That's
lovely action on the rod.
Oh, there we go, see.
Well, I'm going to actually sum up the rod now, because we've got to talk a little bit about this seat box. I might actually have one more cast before I sum it up.
Go on then.
It handles small fish very, very nicely, I've got to say, and that's what I was looking for on this. Again, we haven't caught any monsters on it yet, but that's not really what I was wanting to test with this, really. I feel like it would handle them very nice. I feel like it's got enough backbone in the middle section to do that.
It's very usable, isn't it? It's just a very nice little tool.
If I can get away with it, if Jamie Robbins doesn't ask for it back, I'd like to think it could end up in my holdall, but I know you might have something to say about that. I'm not sure.
No, I'll phone you up later in the week and say Jamie's asked for his rod back, and I've got to pick it up off you.
I won't put it past you. Exactly the sort of manoeuvre I can see you attempting to pull.
Oh, no, it's a nice bit of kit. I like to say, and you know, rods like that, they're not heavy. They don't take up. I wondered when you were going to strike.
I wondered what was going on then. It was that duck distracting me, the mallard. Go on, Dave. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah. It's to say they're not heavy rods, so you can tuck that a two-piece 11-foot rod can sit in either a ready rod bag tucked away, or you know it can go in your hold, or you don't really notice it's there. It's just nice little rod to get out. You in there, and I say I have no doubt if it was a little bit, you know, if we did, you could fish like pellet waggler on, or pellet on the deck and that sort of thing, you know, and fish a sort of like a lightened up pellet waggler. And I'm sure it would handle the F1s and that. There's, you know, the rod's only going to bend so far, isn't it?
Absolutely. As we say up Yorkshire, there's a phrase for this sort of fishing, and to be honest, it perfectly sums up this rod as well. Simply lovely. Just nice. The action. So that sort of softer tip is just perfect for this game. So I'm thinking when that float goes under, we'll put this away. And unfortunately, call time on the fishing, but I'll have a little chat about the box, and then we can go and have a debate in the hot tub. I've got something to ask you in the hot tub.
I'm actually traumatised by the thought of it all.
Well,
I don't think I've ever been in a hot tub. I suppose I've been in a jacuzzi, but not in a hot tub on a fishery. I mean, that's and this is becoming more popular now, isn't it? I'm seeing this at other places.
Yeah, I've got a real love of them. I'd love to have one at home, to be fair, but I'll never be that rich. But yeah, I love it.
Do you just have a fancy bath?
Yeah, fancy bath and a tin of beans. That normally does me. There we are. Nice little red fin to end on. We'll have to show you Dave's skimmer, because he did catch a nice skimmer on the rod before we were rolling, and it is in the net.
If you give me another 5 minutes, I'd catch you one. But
so we'll show you that, folks, and then we'll run you through this Matrix seat box. So there we are, folks. Proof of the pudding. Dave has caught a better skimmer on the Cadence 11-foot rod. And it did handle it quite nicely, didn't it, really?
It did. I think that's definitely, I've obviously had the nicest fish of the day. So I've won on that, haven't I?
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that beats an F1 any day, surely.
Well, I've definitely had the biggest tree of the day, so I'm happy
yes,
with that.
But I have to say, this sort of fishing, you know, if I was going to do more of this, you know, this catching skimmers on Waggler is pretty special. So I think with this rod and this setup, it's something I'd like to do more of, actually. It's sort of like today's been quite, you know, apart from the weather.
So, as much as you hate to admit it, you've quite enjoyed your day in Yorkshire at Lindholme, yeah?
I always had good thoughts about Lindholme. I just never thought of it nicely in the winter. But like I say, it's a wonderful place, and it's full of fish, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Slipping back, and let's have a chat about this seat box.
We will. Off you go, sunshine.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Well, here we are, Dave. We've both had a little fish on it, the Matrix XR36 Pro. Made to look even more attractive by the perspiration falling from the sky, glistening in the afternoon light.
I don't think it would have been right to test it on any other day than this. It's perfect, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It looks no, but it's a nice looking box, isn't it? It is nice looking.
It looks fantastic.
And I think it sort of fits into the mould. There's a couple of different types of seat boxes, isn't there, on the market at the moment, and this sort of fits into a mould of the whole you know, a stable platform to sit on, you know, on your commercial fisheries or natural venues, but it looks stable, which is the first tick, isn't it? Now you and I sort of had a rundown on this, didn't we, of all its features. The very kind Craig Butterfield came all the way up here to show us, and so we've had the info on it, but until you actually sort of play with it yourself, you don't get a real feel for it, and you know, you see all the things. So the one that the first things that, like, I'm impressed by gimmicky things because I'm not very clever like that. So when no, you do. No, it's true. I'm not engineerly. I call myself an engineer, but I'm nothing like it.
Right.
So one of the things that I liked, which just, you know, I like gimmicky things, was the foot plate, and the fact that it's a sliding foot plate, same as lots of other boxes, but it's got a little hand clip on it there, which you just pull in and out, and it locks it in, and it'll pull out. It won't pull out until you pull that lever, and if you just let it go, it'll lock into place, and if you want to pull it completely out, you just pull that, and it comes right out, like that, which I think's quite, you know, it's a little bit of engineering, and it's been thought about, and I like that.
Absolutely, because something that a lot of people don't think about these days, which just hold that up for you, slide back in, or I think something that a lot of people don't think about these days is not all anglers are like us, Dave, and have big vans. You know, a lot of anglers drive. That's gone back in, no problem at all as well, hasn't it? So a lot of anglers drive cars. So if you've got a car, actually, the fact that you can lose 6 inches there off the width of the box is going to be very, very useful. Now, I don't know who designed this box, but I do know one of the product designers, I think he's head of product design at Matrix, Sean Little. He has designed some of the best products in sort of match fishing in the last 5 years across the various brands he's worked for. A really, really clever, talented guy. And I think it wouldn't surprise me at all to know that if he's behind some of the features on this. But I mean, Matrix, what a run they've had over the last sort of 6-7 years. Yeah,
and I think we forget as well that Matrix came from, you know, it was Fox before, wasn't it? And that's all. And they, you know, I remember the Fox boxes. You know, they've always had a history for doing things right. So even though Matrix is a standalone brand, it's, you know, it's not surprising that that they're coming up with these things. I mean, what features stood out for you then? What bits have you seen on it?
Few things, really. I love the fact that these caps here, take these off, and underneath there, you can do it with these cold wet hands. Come in underneath there, there's a thread, so if you want to put any attachments on the side here, you can do that. Thread in there, so you can, you know, put, if you wanted to put a pole sock or anything you want in there.
Yeah. Could you fill it with rum?
On a day like today.
You know what I mean? Just a little toddy, just keep yourself warm.
Well, it's always a possibility. I think that's a great feature. As you say, I mean, I think the thing that stands out for me, it looks really sexy. I'm not normally an angler who goes on our any item we tackle looks. It's all about the performance to me, and the performance on this is obviously excellent. But Craig was explaining about this frame. It's shaped in a totally unique way, and it does look really, really good. But importantly as well, from a function point of view, there's no backplate on the box. There's some nice structure, it looks nice. There's no backplate, so if you're in Ireland or fishing somewhere like that where you've got waves or wind hitting the back of the box, it's not going to push the box off the platform. This is
there's another clip on the side here that pulls your little stacker tray.
Cassette.
So like you say, if you're going into the water on a platform, you've got no obstruction under there. I think that's, you know, I like those things, and I just little simple things. I'm always like, you know, I'm always one for. I've got small hands. I'm cumbersome and useless, and the clips. You know, how easy is that? You know, and that's a brand new box. Yeah. So and that just, you know, there's no newness there. That just that's been.
You can build these up as well with trays. If you want your rig trays under your seat, you can do that, can't you?
Yeah. It's is that where you store your 08 hook lengths and that sort of thing?
Yeah, all my 08 go in there. Yeah. Or in the cassette, you can do it either way, I suppose.
Yeah. Now something I noticed. Now I've not. You've worked in the tackle trade. Worked is a loose term, but you did do something in the tackle trade. You know more about it than me, but I think I've spotted. We had the rundown of this from Craig, and he showed us all these fancy features, and I think I've spotted one that he didn't say to us, and I reckon I've worked this out for myself.
Careful here, Dave.
If I turn this round, when we were sat pole fishing, and you always put your extra extensions behind you, don't you? And I always put them on this crossbeam here or wherever on my box. Here, you've got little V's, so they just sit in. Now, I don't know if that's a deliberate design, whether I'm talking rubbish, but I put a pole section in there early, and it sits there. It doesn't roll off or roll either way. It puts her up. I'm going to ask him.
Why not? It makes sense to me, definitely. It's the other thing. I remember with the magazine when we used to get approached and asked questions about seat boxes. One of the questions we were always asked is how heavy is it? And that's really light. Actually,
yeah, it's not bad at all.
I say it's really light. It's not. It doesn't feel cheaply light, but it's light for a seat box.
Now, what did he say about? They told us as well about the way the frames have been manufactured. They use a process. And I can't remember the name of it, but I know it had the word aqua in it. So it meant it had water
grinding
involved.
by water.
Yes,
a
that's
little
what it
bit
is.
like what we'll be doing in the hot tub in about an hour's time.
We will not. But I thought, well, it was the fact that they mentioned it to us. I felt we needed to mention to it. So I'm going to find the exact term. We'll call it aqua grinding for now.
Yeah.
But we'll give it its proper term maybe later on. But it's aqua something, and it was quite impressive too. It's the way it's shaped. You get a better shape on the frame, and it's like these more natural wavy shapes rather than everything being square and boxy and triangular. So
one comment you made, which I picked up on when you were sat there fishing away, is how comfy the seat was. Now that abomination that you sit on your river fishing, that's awful. So any seat must feel comfortable compared to that.
I don't spend much time sitting on it, so it's never a problem. I'm up and down all the time. I'm like a jack in the box, you know what I mean? I'm always on the go.
Right.
So, but this is a different story, and I just noticed when I sat on it that it was quite comfortable, really.
You were comfy on there.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about this. This is one thing that takes some getting used to me, but I warm to it. This structure here. Obviously, when you sat on a box, to me I like to be able to, often I'll put two legs one side of my pole across my body if I'm fishing. It didn't get in the way this, but I knew it was there. It wasn't uncomfortable, but I wasn't used to it.
I think it's something that the Europeans do a lot more than us. Probably they use that sort of thing with the bump bar. I mean, we use bump bars, sure, but they're more aligned to sort of actually putting it in there and resting and waiting. I never use that. I'm always fishing with the pole across my lap. Occasionally I'll sit on it, but so any of her do sit on it. I've never used that, so it's not something I've known, but I didn't notice it getting in the way either. So it's there. I'm sure it's got its place, but like you say, I don't think it really affected performance.
Let's talk briefly about the side tray.
Yep.
Obviously, big plus on this, it's there's no leg required. We've got a supporting arm that comes off the box. Let's put that on the back, shall we?
Yeah.
Tell you what as well, cold wet hands, these knobs are easy enough to get hold of and manoeuvre around. They're not too cumbersome, are they?
No, that's good. Sliding tray. So it slides away to get into your carry bag and what have you. And you can adjust that how you want it. That goes, and I'm not going to do it because I know with my cumbersome fingers it won't work.
Come on, have a go,
No,
Dave.
I'm not going to embarrass. The foot
on.
plate isn't out long enough, so it won't go on there anymore.
Okay. So we'll put the foot plate out first. So let's have a go with this because I haven't done this yet. I've watched you do it. We'll squeeze this in, then we pull it out. Yeah, that is dead easy, isn't it? Yeah. Dead easy, and then it'll come all the way out.
Yeah.
We don't
if you let go of the clip when you first pull it out, it'll lock itself in.
I see. So you get to there, then let go.
Yeah.
Boom.
And one thing as well about their accessories that go with these, you told me about these circular 360 attachments. So you can basically on your keep net arms, these will go anywhere around 360s. You can have it at any angle or whatever, and different things, especially for like rod rests and different things like that.
Very clever idea. The attachments are another thing altogether, but again, very well thought out.
Yeah,
Come on, get this side tray. I've pulled the thing out. Show me. Let's see how this works.
I realise I had to do it now.
Thought you got away with that then, didn't you?
I did. Got to get it to the right distance.
So you were setting this. I see. So
that you've got to get it so it extends out.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stiff. There we go.
Yeah.
So that one goes over there.
But the thing about this, of course, in terms of support, it's giving you three.
You've got 3 mounting points. So
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It mounts on all 3 of your.
There we go. So that one goes there. Pull that one out to there. There we go.
Brilliant.
Do you like the way I performed under pressure then? I was under pressure to do that, but it was because 3 points is a lot more difficult than 2, and I struggle with multiples of things. So I'm quite impressed with how I did that. Well, but it's good, isn't it? It's a nice tray.
There's only going to be 2 of us in the hot tub, so don't worry about that. Let's tighten this up. Yeah, I think the fact that it's got three support points is a big plus. Obviously, we can use this as well if we want to, just to give some extra support down the middle.
It's actually a good sized tray, isn't it? When you use this extra, your feet are there.
It's a massive important part of it, isn't it? Yeah. Especially on fisheries with small platforms, you need to be able to get yourself sat comfortably with everything to hand.
And you don't want a side tray that comes this way. You want it to get, you don't want to be using space out here because you can't reach it. So.
And going back to what we said about the functionality of the box, transport, etc. The fact that it folds down so small, it's going to go in your car nice and easy. You can take your footplate out, you can fold that down, it's all in your car. I know what Sean's like, Sean Little. He likes little sexy cars, so that's probably why
little
he
sexy
designed it.
cars.
Yeah, like had a Golf for a while. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he likes all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all that he hasn't thought about that. But you know, that is real innovation. To be fair to him, it's a really, really nice product.
Right. Tell me what pricing point. What price are we on?
RRP for this $699, which I think's very cheap actually.
I think it puts it bang in that range. There's a range of boxes, around that sort of price that I think are affordable, but are very much, this 36mm legs and everything. It's, I think, it's put itself right at the top of that little, So some people will pay £1,000 on a seat box. That's fine.
Well,
but
I was just going to say, I disagree a little bit. If you would have said to me, how much do I think that's worth? Based on the fact of how much reeves are and the hotbox systems are and stuff like that, I'd have said £1,000.
I was surprised when it said £699. I thought I was surprised, and in reality, £699, that's retail. You'll be picking these up for just over £600 once they're out there, and different dealers doing jobs. And I think it's right there.
Can I play devil's advocate and ask you a question?
You can.
Looks lovely. We say everything folds down, nice and functional. You're an angler who fishes big dirty venues with heavy bits of gear, and I'm the same. Do you think it'd stand up to it?
Well, this is it. We review these things on what we see, and what we don't see is how it lasts 12 months down the line or 2 years down the line. How are you're securing your knobs and your bits and pieces and your clips. You just don't know, do you? So what you can do. But all I can say is, from what I see, it's been well thought out. I don't see lots of bits that are going to go wrong and malfunction with wear and tear. I can't see any problems at this stage, put it that way. And the way the legs, they've got a new clamping system in here as well, so the legs aren't being damaged every time you tighten them up and things. So I think everything points towards a long-lasting box, to be honest. But
I'd have to agree with you. It's got a feeling of quality about it. There's nothing I see that makes me think it's cheap and nasty and going to fall to bits.
No. Do you know if they've got any plans to bring out any range of umbrellas or warm clothing? Or
I think Matrix have got just about everything, Dave. But
because
the fact of the matter, we need to get you a nice warm jacket, don't we, pal? I mean, look at you, like a poor soaking lamb on a hillside of Yorkshire.
I don't get this in Herefordshire.
Herefordshire,
it's much warmer. Right, so are we done?
I think we're done. Let's head to the lodge, and then I want you to have a look in my bag.
Is that in the hot tub or out of the hot tub?
This
day's going downhill fast. I want a cup of tea. That's what I want.
I'm not just gonna stay here and wait. I wanna just decide what is to be my fate. Alone about myself, I'm not just gonna stay here and wait.
Last month you shocked and awed me with your choice of bag, and what was in it was groundbreaking. We had a great debate, didn't we, about the merits of different mixes. Upset a few people, no doubt.
It did, ruffled a few feathers.
But, we're no strangers to controversy. We laugh in the face of danger, some would say.
We do.
I want a much smaller bag.
Is this going to be about magic beans or pieces of silver?
Well, you open it and find out, Dave. Go on.
How did you manage to carry this?
Well, it's very heavy, as you can imagine.
Oh, I'm all excited now. I'm assuming that's not part of it.
What's that? Oh, that's a fluffer, the old mic. No, that's not part of it. Hold up what was in the bag other than that.
Okay, so what we have here are some Dacron connectors, I would say. That is the correct terminology for them.
That is the correct terminology for them. But the subject of my debate, and the reason I put those in the bag this week, is I want to debate this topic more widely. Elastic connectors, how you attach your line to your elastic. Because I think there's an awful lot to think into this, and I've recently reached a conclusion for the first time in my angling life about what I think the correct way to do it is.
Okay.
More on that later.
Sorry,
First,
so are we talking, we better go through the options then of what options. In my mind, there's 3 options.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Go on then. So what are our options?
Well, I think there's obviously Dacron
Obviously,
connectors, which
Dacron
we've got
connector,
there.
yeah.
There is obviously solid plastic connectors that some anglers favour.
Well, no, there's 4 then. That's 4 I've got. Go on.
There's crow's feet,
Crow's feet.
and there's the way that Mr. Bennett does it with the little knot and the bead that slides over it.
Yeah.
I just want to start. Obviously, we've not spoken about this before. This is completely off the cuff. Tell me your thoughts on elastic connectors. What do you use and why do you use them?
Right, okay, so I still use Dacrons like this. I make my own. Got all the little beads, and I've got some fly line backing, which I use for the Dacron. And I've liked that. I've used that for quite a few years. And I think the reason I like it is I'm able to slide the bead over the knot of the elastic. We use with the elastics, with hollow elastics are thicker, aren't they? So I find that pulling that bead over that knot and hiding it away is just very neat, very tidy. And I like the dangle of a Dacron. I like the way it does. Now I've seen some of the manufactured ones, and they use quite a stiff Dacron and quite a coated Dacron, and I don't think that's right. I don't like that. It just looks all a bit sort of like it would all come undone. Whereas with these softer ones, these are quite soft. The line beds into it. It sits in there. It never comes undone, and also I can get it off quickly when I've finished. The main thing I like about it is it holds the line away from the pole tip, and with all a lot of summer fishing we do when we're slapping the rig and spinning over and that, it keeps it all away. That said, I haven't gone to using the bead with the elastic and the knot, like you say that Andy Bennett and all those are perfected, and I have to say if they're using it, it must be right. But I haven't gone down that route, because I've been perfectly happy with this. I've gone away crow's feet and plastic connectors. I don't know, I just don't like. I haven't used plastic connectors for years and years. And I know some top anglers do still, and it's obviously a simple system. And I imagine when my eyesight goes, I might use them.
Why have you settled on Dacrons then? Has there been any times when you felt using a Dacron's cost you fish, or you've missed bites, or?
No, I think it's just genuine confidence in something. I don't get those wrap ups, sometimes when you hook a fish and everything's lock solid and you think the pole's going to break. And it's quite frightening. That's probably one of the most frightening moments in angling, that is, isn't it?
We all have it, don't we?
It is, isn't it? That split second when you realise there's no elastic coming on and you've got like a 10-pound carp on the end. That's serious. Gets your ticker going, that does.
It does, doesn't it? As you say, it's just not a nice experience. I quite recently I've come to a bit of a conclusion myself about this.
I'm on the edge of my seat about this. Come on.
Because I've tried all sorts: connectors, Dacrons, crow's feet, and Jordan Holloway, bless him, very kindly tied me a few up like Mr. Bennett does it with the bead that slides over, and that is an excellent connection system.
It does look very neat.
Really, really good. But I think, and this is a conclusion I've reached, between that connection system that Bennett uses, i.e. the knot with the bead that slides over it, and we'll put a picture of that on the screen for you so we know what we're on about with that, and the crow's foot, between them two, I think they are by far and away the best methods of connecting your line to your elastic, because they are the most direct. And I think I've had situations shallow fishing, and I remember talking to Bennett about this when he said the same, where you get little rattles but fish aren't on, and it's because you're not in direct contact with the hook. The Dacron has got movement in it. It's like a hinge. So when a fish takes your bait, it's another level of resistance, at which point they can eject the bait and off this swim.
So you're talking about fishing situations or scenarios where you are very tight to your float. Everything's and you're probably F1 fishing, that sort of thing.
I am, but I'm also saying more generally, even when you strike on fishing on the bottom with some line on the bottom, if you think about it, when you lift up, it's another thing that's got to move. It's another little part of the system, another hinge that's going to tip up as you connect with the fish before you make solid contact with the elastic. It's not just commercials, Dave, either. I remember doing a feature with Darren Bickerton on the New Junction Canal, and he was squat fishing for roach. And he's adamant that a crow's foot is more direct, because obviously you're hooking the fish much cleaner on that as well. So, yeah, I basically changed everything now. I use crow's foot on light solid elastics, up to about probably a number 6, and also on anything thicker than like a black hydro. Everything in between, I'll use the Andy Bennett method with the sliding bead over a knot.
And have you had any wrap ups or anything like that? Any malfunctions recently? Or?
You do get the odd wrap up, yes.
More with crow's feet, surely.
Yeah, both I think. And the worst thing I found is if the wind's in your face.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I'm talking very occasionally.
I can see what you're saying with regards to that, especially like I mentioned, you know, the sort of fishing you're talking about as well. A lot of F1 fishing, that, you know, we all know how hard they are to hit sometimes, especially these smaller ones. So you are getting dips and stuff, like say rattles, isn't it? It's just not hooking up. So that's certainly food for thought for me. But I've just really liked these Dacrons, and probably if I did more of that sort of fishing, I perhaps wouldn't. But, you know, I perhaps would look at the mechanics of it all. But you know, I'm just lashing pellets in everywhere, ain't I? If it don't go under, I'm not interested really.
Or swinging 14-ounce ropes to your chest.
That's it, isn't it? It's each to their own, isn't it? But that's but no, I do. It's actually a subject I think people get confused by as well, and the simplicity of a plastic connector is really good for anybody who's starting pole fishing, isn't it? You pull the sleeve back, you put the thing in. There's very little that can malfunction with it. So you know, I think they all have their place. Probably of the three, I think probably the connectors would be the one I'd completely discount. But if I was a beginner, I wouldn't. So
another thing that I do like about crow's feet and all, and the Andy Bennett method, is when you put your rig on it, you instantly know if it's worn or not. Whereas Dacrons can sneak under the radar because obviously you just touch the Dacron at the top. Connectors, you never really check the elastic where it's tied onto the connector. The whole process of putting your rig on a crow's foot or on the underneath the bead, as Andy Bennett would, is you're handling the elastic. So yeah, it might wear a bit quicker because you are handling it, but also at least you know before it's going to go, and you can just snip a bit off and tighten it up. I
think with what we do, you know, with what the venues we fish and stuff, I think, you know, there's enough of those guys, like say Andy Bennett's, if they're using it, then there's a reason for it. They ain't daft. And yeah, I think that's probably, if I was going to move, that's what I'd move to. But tell me, what's it like when you get a wrap up on a crow's foot? What's it like when that happens on your 08 bottoms and stuff and green gammers? I bet it's carnage, isn't it?
Oh, I don't forget I'm very lucky. Very often I just don't come and ship them straight back in. Big daft skimmers and net them.
Yeah, I suppose that's.
No, it can be painful, can't it?
So that's your little contribution to what's in the bag. Is that's what you brought?
That's what I bought.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good subject. I'll give you that. It's an interesting subject, and I'm sure one that people will appreciate. But
and as you like Dacron connectors so much, Dave, you can hang on to them. How about that?
Well, I make my own, but these look quite decent, so I will. Thank you. Can I keep the bag? Where's the bag?
The bag's gone. I'm sorry, you can't have the bag. But
okay.
The good news is the tub is nearly ready, 40 degrees, and I think we should sum up today in there. How do you feel about that?
Well, to be honest, it's been cold, so anything that's warm, I'm up for. Let's go and have a look. It could be an
You're up for anything that's warm. Okay, now
right, come on. Well, it's still raining, Tom.
Yeah.
But I don't seem to be feeling it now.
Well, I've got to say, the facilities here at Lindholme are second to none, aren't they?
Now, this isn't the first time I've seen you I've seen photographs of you in hot tubs before.
Have you?
Worryingly, mainly with men.
Yeah.
But this is quite on these sort of commercial festivals. It's quite a common thing, isn't it? More and more of these fisheries now are installing these, aren't they?
Yeah. I
can imagine that after a hard day's fishing, or a good day's fishing, whatever, hot sunshine, whatever, cold.
Yeah.
A beer.
Yeah.
In here. Sounds pretty decent. I could get used to it.
I've got to tell you, mate, I absolutely love a hot tub. It's a proper weak spot of mine. And I've just been in with men. I've been in hot tubs with plenty of men, but I've been with a few women as well. You know, I'm not fussy. Anybody who wants to go in a hot tub with me,
it's more about the hot tub than the sex.
Absolutely, Dave. You've got it. But no, they're lovely, aren't they? And especially this time of year in winter, there's no better way to warm up, is there? Than
this is a unique experience for me. I've never done this before. Been out in the cold, you know. I mean, I've been in hot tubs before, but not like this. So yeah, I could get used to it. Tom, we're coming again. We'll have to. But how many of these fisheries now? I can think of 3 that have got lodges with hot tubs. How many do you know?
Quite a few, yeah.
Was it Westwood?
There's Westwood, definitely. Woodlands at Thirsk.
Yeah.
Obviously here at Lindholme's got them.
Yeah.
I know quite a few of the cart places.
Stafford Moor.
Stafford Moor, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of places that do it. On to today then, mate. So, what were your thoughts on the 3 products? What's our summing up of the Daiwa G90 first of all?
I like it. It's obviously a Daiwa pole. They are special, you know. Daiwa probably do it better than anyone and have done for a lot of years, and I do like it. It's hard for me because I'm not doing, as I say, I'm not doing a lot of that at this time of year. So I don't. If I was handling a pole every week, it would be easier to judge another pole. You know what I mean? Whereas you sort of perhaps are doing more of that. So it felt good to me. That's all I can say. It felt good, and I think if you're an angler who's looking in that price bracket, I'm sure if you compared it to other poles in that price bracket, it would probably come out top. It's finding out, you know, it's working out what you need from a pole, isn't it? And if you're in that, if you're an angler that goes fishing, match fishing every week and fishes 16 meters regular, I think then you have to look at maybe a price range above. I'm not saying it was poor at long distance, but I'm just saying that you have to realise that there is a difference in performance.
Yeah, I agree and disagree. I agree in terms of I think it's a fantastic pole, and I'll come on to that in a minute. I disagree. I mean, we can't really say it's the best in its price point because we haven't tried every other one, have we? So
no,
until you sort of get them all in a line, it's hard to say which is the best in terms of performance. And it might well be that there are other poles out there as good or better. But the thing with Daiwa, and the thing that I think sees them do so well, is they're very easily upgraded. So, as I said before, if you bought the Daiwa G90, fished with it for a couple of years, and then decided, you know what, I'm wanting to progress in my fishing, I'm going to buy an AirZ or an Airity or whatever, it's all going to interchange for you. So all your sections are going to be, you know, you've got spare sections for every section all the way down. All your top kits fit, all your number 4s fit, all your number 5s fit. And that's why as well, I think, the top end Daiwa poles from the G90 upwards have such a good resale value. You know, you only have to look on Facebook on the various Daiwa used pages to see that if you own a Daiwa pole, there's a good chance you'll be able to sell it for a good percentage of what you paid for it. Yeah, it seems to. And it's got that legacy about it, hasn't it? In terms of performance, I can honestly say, for that price bracket, I've never used anything better than that.
And like, if you take yourself back 10 years, you'd have never got something like that for that money, would you?
No.
That's how much it's come on. That's how much the pole designs have come on and that sort of thing. It's something of that. You'd have been paying top end prices for that.
What about the Cadence Waggler rod? And really, I mean, I'd lean on you more to draw a conclusion on this because I've done a fair bit of rod and line work. I've caught quite a few trees in my time, not just at Lindholme. But I've not done loads of it. You know a lot about rods. You've been instrumental in designing some rods for various companies over the years. What are your thoughts on it?
I like it. It reminded me, I used to have, years ago, there used to be a rod for this with a Silstar made. It's a Silstar Tradition Canal SL, and I've still got one. And it was a specialist canal tool, you know, and very few people would buy them because we didn't do that. So if we're on canals, we're fishing poles anyway. But I bought it because it was going cheap, and I used to use it for my junior coaching. And I used to love it when I used to get it out and play because it was that. And that rod reminded me of that, but a sort of like a new age version of it. You can tell the carbon's different, and it was. I mean, we had a skim on it and caught some other bit, and I'd have loved to have stayed. In all fairness, we didn't really do the fishing justice today, did we? We caught some fish, but we didn't hammer it because it was miserable, wasn't it?
I think as well, you know, the point is the tackle we were testing, we had to show its responsiveness. It was more important to me that rod proved to be a good tool for them small fish. I'm sure it'll land anything bigger that we hook. That's not an issue. But you wouldn't choose it, would you, if you were targeting bigger fish? I mean, yes, you'd take your time and you'd land anything you hooked at. I do believe.
However, it was completely different. If you take other 11-foot rods, which we've seen loads of in recent years, and really budget rods, you know, that do great jobs for pellet waggler fishing, that's a different animal. That's you know, this is a rod that's designed for a purpose, and it's, you know, it will take those light lines, not your 08s, but your 011s, smaller hooks, things like that. It'll take all that, and it'll probably do, you know, you could probably beef it up and do other things with it, but that 11-foot model is it's a really nice rod.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Yeah, we've been set, you know, 2 great products.
100 quid price tag, did you say, with that one?
Yeah, it was likewise with all everything we tested today. I think that, you know, about all of them are steel really at the RRP. Not the RRP, should I say? The RRP is different. The SSP, the selling price, the price you can buy them for in shops. I think they're all great.
Why
value.
do we do that? Why do we? I don't know. I've never understood that. Why do you say that's the price it should sell at, but that's the price it is? Why don't you just? I've never understood that with poles.
I think it's originally, from what my understanding anyway, it's a marketing strategy. So if you say to a shop, you know, something's worth this amount of money, buy 10, the trade price would be lower, so they can bang them out a bit cheaper. And yeah, there's good and bad with it, but it's one of them things. It's that ingrained in the trade now.
I think they need to stop. I want to see it stopped. The campaign starts here.
Does it?
We stop it now. Just
Stop the inflated RRP.
Tell me what the bloody price is and be done with it. All right? I don't want to know what that should be, or, you know, make you think you're getting a steal, because you're not. You pay for it what it's worth. So that's my little.
Have you finished?
Sorry, it just went off on a one. It's been a long cold day, Tom. All right?
No, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. And you know, the hard thing is the way the trade's changed now. If you're giving good advice to anybody, you'd have to say, Google the price of whatever you're wanting to buy. Go on Google and Google it. Find out how much you can buy it for. And I'm not saying by that by any means don't support your local shop. Give them the option to match the price. But at the end of the day, if you want the best price on a product, you've got to shop around these days.
And I bet as a Yorkshireman, that's very high on your priorities, isn't it?
Right up there with my ferrets and my whippets and everything else, my old beauty.
Right, what about the seat box then?
Again, you know, it's going to sound like a load of positives from me, but I was really impressed with it. Really impressed. I thought for the money, the price point, fantastic. Really, it looks great.
One thing we didn't mention as well is that box is available in the lime green as well, isn't it? The Matrix colours. Is it lime? I've got that right? But I think it's the whatever that bright colour they've got in there.
Yeah, lime green.
I think you can get it in both, and so, you know, if you're that way inclined and you want to sit on a lime green box, then crack on. But you know, it's a good bit of kit, and like you say, we can never tell what it's going to be like 12 months down the line, or you've got an angler who buys it, who uses it once a week, or an angler who buys it, who's out 3 or 4 times a week. You know, it's all wear and tear, but it looks like it was up to it to me, and I like the little features and, you know, the lack of newness to it. You know, like I said, those clips. Clips has been a big thing with Seatbox over the years, isn't it? A lot of people have got it wrong, and that system seems very loose and very good. You know, very easy to use.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It impressed me. I've sort of seen the evolution with these boxes, because I fished with Matrix Dynamite Trentman some years ago when the Matrix just started launching boxes, and a few of the T-Banner and the Saucer improved. You know, they were good boxes at the start, but they've been improved all the time through the journey. And yeah, that box we saw today, I thought was brilliant. And the thing I liked about it in particular, if I was to pick one thing I liked, is the fact that it was so modulated. You can take the foot plate off, you can take the side tray off, fold it down. You could put that in a small car and go fishing.
But without losing its stability, that's what it is. I've used, as you know, I use smaller boxes for the river and things like that. And the reality is that makes them less stable. It's less of a stable base, but that didn't lose any of its rigidity when we did that, did it?
No. All in all, fantastic 3 products this month, I've got to say. Really, really impressed. Can't think of a single negative with the seat box. The only thing that I would say, and it's not a negative, I hope we've got some jets. Hit the button again, my old beauty. Oh, and again. The only thing I would say is, you know, I was filming for a tackle shop the other day, and we were talking about the Matrix trolley and how good that is. I know the Matrix platforms have won acclaim with among anglers in Ireland, but you do have to buy everything. You have to buy the trolley, the platform, and the seat box. There are other models out there, like the Hotbox would be an example, where you can get everything that does it in one. But that's not a negative. That's just a different way of doing things. You know?
And if the products are right, if what they're the packages they're putting together are right, and there's no weak links, then you'd be happy enough to buy it all and thing. But yeah, no, there's good stuff coming out of there for sure.
Absolutely.
And, it's all well thought of.
So it's your turn to choose a venue next month, Dave.
Yeah, I know I'm not going to get away with another river, but maybe we should look at a natural venue. Possibly a canal, possibly a reservoir. I'm easy.
I'll let you. I'll be guided by you. I'll be guided by you, sir.
Judging on what we've done so far, reservoir with.
What did you say? That reservoir?
A reservoir with plush lodges and a hot tub. We've probably found the perfect venue.
Absolutely.
Well, if every peg's got £100 a bream in.
So if you know anywhere, folks, just
Let us know.
Let us know. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, do us a favour. Give us a like, give us a share. As I said, we're trying to build this review project. We're going to do certainly one more of them, and if it goes well, we'll be rolling this out long term, and there'll be loads more product reviews coming your way. So thanks for watching.
And we can get used to this, you know what I mean? It's not a problem. We're happy enough with it, aren't we?
Absolutely. I can take a bit of this.
I'm putting them jets back on.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you next time.